There are so many amazing manga out there. The list really just goes on and on with pretty much no real end in sight. But see, the problem is that there's a select handful that gets the endless praises of the internet, leaving the rest to sit idly by, waiting for someone to spread the word about their greatness. So here I am, ready to talk about 5 series that I feel like aren't talked about enough. Ones that made me laugh, scream, cry, do push-ups alone in my room, and stare at my ceiling for hours at a time. Oh, and one more thing, they're also all finished. So no waiting around for weeks or months at a time for a measly 20 pages. Get ready to hear me ramble and shout about why some drawings can make me feel things that I can only try my best to put into words. And feel free to let me know what you think are the peak manga that you wish were talked about more, or give me a recommendation directly on my Patreon for its own video there. Anyways, let's just get into the first series, one that I found to be particularly special. The story of Beck initially follows this guy, Koyuki. He's the definition of average. He's got mediocre grades, no real hobbies or close friends, and honestly has the future prospects of working at his local convenience store. He has a vague interest in swimming or music since he could kinda sing good, but has no true aspirations. Until he met this guy. Ryusuke is a punk-headed little shit, but he's also like that one guy you randomly know that for some reason could say anything in the world and you just want to be around him. And his goal is to make the greatest band ever. However, this dream is starting from complete scratch. The only fill he has for his band is himself on guitar. He knows he'll need someone funky on bass, a snappy drummer, and above all, a band is nothing without a transcendent vocalist. But how and where he will find these pieces is harder said than done. Now, these early chapters honestly aren't the best. Koyuki is about as interesting as a rock you find on the side of the road, while also having no real chance to be in Ryusuke's band with how new he is to guitar. For the first 10 or so chapters, I kind of felt like, what was the point? Ryusuke spent the majority of the time just looking for people to join his band, and it was still a waiting game to see if a spark of connection would build between me and the characters. Yet, there were glimpses, pages here and there through these early chapters that made it feel worth it to continue on a little longer. But it still felt like it was missing a certain piece that would really make it all connect together. However, once Beck, aka Mongolian Chop Squad, was properly formed, it changed everything. With Ryusuke on guitar, Taira on bass, Saku on drums, Chiba as a rapper, and Koyuki as the head vocalist, and also a guitarist, sparks started to fly. It was from this point on that I became totally enraptured with the story. Like an obese man eating Doritos, I just couldn't get enough. Being in a band is more than just about the talent of the individuals. You need the right chemistry that makes the talent within the group exponentially multiply off one another. And that's also how I felt when reading the series. Once the 5 of them were a proper group, the resulting story sparked into something special. The dynamics between the characters were fun and fresh, the slice of life elements actually became enjoyable, the little romance sprinkled in was pretty damn good, and above all, there was a unifying passion that was infectious with each performance and even just the practices. I just felt the same contagious adrenaline each of the band members had. I became utterly obsessed with the incremental improvement that was made after the clear hard work you could see right in front of you. But there was a specific moment in the story that flipped a switch in me and made me go, oh my god, this is one of the best things I've ever read. It was after Beck started seeing a modicum of success. Koyuki was rapidly improving, while still having faults, but it felt like if they continued down this trajectory, something incredible might just happen. And coming up was the largest music festival in Japan. Beck got an invite, yet the stipulation was that they had to draw the largest crowd of the 3 stages during their performance, or something more than just terrible would happen. And with all of the stakes and anticipation on the line, the group was ready to, they were a complete mess. Members were ready to leave at a moment's notice. It didn't even look like there would be a performance after everything they'd gone through. But the resulting show was legendary. With nothing to lose, they played like their lives were on the line, and I could feel all of the emotions and adrenaline through every stroke on the pages. They wanted what could be their last performance to be something more than just memorable. Every once in a while, I'll read a manga that I can only describe as it makes me hot. And I know that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, so let me try to explain it a little bit better. There are these moments where the entire time while reading certain stories, it feels like my heartbeat is increasing and I'm almost at the point where it feels like I'm sweating. And I might just be a crazy person, but seeing these passion-driven stories like this fuel me with a head high where I absolutely love everything on the pages. This specific moment encapsulates that entire feeling. I just felt hot. And from this point, it's just more and more of these moments. It filled me up with an adrenaline to the point where I never wanted to stop reading. I didn't have a care in the world if I fucked up my sleep schedule or not, as long as I could keep on turning the page. Beck is a beautiful underdog story, defined by the unruly work ethic needed to find success by taking a creative path. For me, it was one of the greatest things I've ever read, and I frankly don't even care that much about music, which is only a testament to the incredible work made by the author. This author is a genius. I've read several of his stories, including numerous of his one-shots, and in each and every single one of them, he's able to write certain characters with such a horrifying mystical intrigue that it completely sucks me into the page, which is an odd sensation for me, since I despise horror. But despite having a queasy pit in my stomach at times when reading his stories, I can't help but want to know what's going to happen next. His traumatic psychological horror characterizations are the closest thing I've ever gotten to understanding why someone would enjoy watching a horror movie, since this is me during them. I could talk about any of his series since they're all amazing. My personal favorite is this one, Blood on the Tracks, but it's also the most talked about of his works, so instead let me recommend you The Flowers of Evil, a confusing manga as it's both dog shit and also one of the most fascinating things I've ever read. We have this ostracized loser with a slight superiority complex. He reads morally ambiguous works, like this one, which no one in his tiny hometown could even begin to comprehend. One day he walked into his empty classroom to grab something he had forgotten, and then noticed something on the ground. The gym bag of a girl he's idolized for years now. And in an impulsive twist of fate, he snatches it to lay his eyes on what's inside, until he hears the rumblings of someone walking into the classroom. And as he starts to panic, he hurries out of the classroom while also stealing the gym clothes. But that entire time, he wasn't alone. Someone watched him do everything. That someone is Sawa Nakamura, a girl as sharp and unhinged as she is unpredictable, where she has no regard for those around her. Now armed with her knowledge of his shameful act, she manipulates him into a dark pact of rebellion, leading the two to pervertedly torment and vandalize the tiny town they live in, as if tearing apart their mundane world could somehow release them from their suffocating reality. This is the very surface level of what the story is about. She will tell this loser to wear the stolen gym clothes to satisfy some sick, twisted fantasy she has, and countless other indecent acts. At least, that's what the first half is about. And personally, when I read this portion of the story, I thought it was complete dog shit. I didn't like any of the characters. I couldn't understand the way the main character behaved. Why does he have such twisted motivations for his actions that to me didn't make a whole lot of sense? Oh my god, and don't even get me started on her. She's this sick, twisted caricature of what you would imagine if someone said, make an evil, perverted teen girl that will definitely sell volumes. There's no real rhyme or reason to her actions. She's just pure chaos wrapped in a school uniform. And this is where I initially just flat out stopped reading. But fast forward a couple of days, I had a little extra time on my hands and thought, why not give it another shot? And despite my reservations still being present, something else took over. I couldn't stop myself from reading the next page over and over and over again, until I had finished the entire manga. And it was only after finishing it that I could appreciate what was trying to be done with this horrendous intro. When you're young, you make stupid decisions. This is a universal concept that we all share. I can guarantee there has been something in your life that you can look back on and think, why the fuck did I do that? And building this naive, stupid, murky consciousness that we all have present within us was the goal of the beginning portion of this story, which eventually reaches a pinnacle of regretful remorse for the main character's idiotic actions. And it's after this that I really started to enjoy The Flowers of Evil. The second half of this story is nothing like the first. The main character is an entirely new version of who he was at the beginning. He's now constantly battling the mental anguish as a result of his actions. The overall story becomes much simpler. It explores the two-faced conflict that the characters have. The you that you have to display to the public versus the true you hide behind a mask to uphold this image for those around you. And from this exploration, it breeds amazing realistic character interactions that I personally really adore. At the same time, this manga can spark uneasy memories you once hid away. Like, remember the awkward quietness you felt when you got invited to that one hangout? Like, you didn't know a soul and only felt remorse when you said you would come. So you just sit there, silently, in your empty, lonely world. Oshimi is an outstanding author who can crazily create a story that goes from a terrible 4 out of 10 to a solid 8 out of 10 in the span of a short 50 chapters. You might hate this manga, you might love it, but it's worth giving it a shot. This is the 37th year of the Meiji era, a year defined by the Russo-Japanese War. Nearly 200,000 people from all sides met their end, yet in the face of it all stood one soldier, a figure so indomitable it was like he fought as if the devil possessed him, where he earned the moniker Sugimoto the Immortal. Why would an accomplished war veteran known as the Immortal find himself in the heart of Hokkaido? The answer lies in a tale so compelling it ignited a conflict that spiraled into a four-sided war. The story goes a little something like this. There was a time when gold pieces the size of beans were found in every river in Hokkaido. The native Ainu people hoarded massive gold piles in hopes of one day fighting back against the Japanese who had stolen their land. But one man stole everything. He alone killed every single one of the Ainu guarding it and took the $5 million worth of gold with him. Yet while on the run from the cops, he hid the gold somewhere in Hokkaido, but not long after got caught before he could tell a single soul about the hiding spot. Eventually, he was sentenced to life in prison to live out his days in the most tightly secured institution around. Everyone, guards, wardens, and prisoners alike, wanted to uncover the secret of the hidden gold, but no amount of pressure could force him to talk. So if you had to share a secret without it falling into the wrong hands, how would you do it? His solution? He tattooed a coded map onto the bodies of his fellow prisoners. His message to them was simple: break out of here, and I'll split the gold with anyone who escapes. And now, no one knows the full truth. The prisoners are scattered and untraceable, the gold's location, still a mystery. But what's certain is that there's $5 million hidden somewhere on this very island where Sugimoto the Immortal now stands. It's a fable so enticing that he's committed to claim the treasure for himself. The premise alone immediately drew me into Golden Kamuy, where even a sliver of information about the location of the gold was like finding 20 bucks randomly in your dresser. I think if I were to give you the most out of left field summation of Golden Kamuy, it would go a little bit like this. Reading it kind of felt like as if you took the stupid absurdity of JoJo's. Like imagine you and your bro are fighting where the loser is the first to... Yeah, so there's a fight where they just shoot their white manly juices at each other. And there's also this scene. What is he doing to the bear? Now you then make it take place in Hokkaido in 1905 and tell the most mentally ill people that the first person to complete this scavenger hunt wins $5 million. For me, this eventually climaxed in standout moments where an intriguing detective-style mystery intertwined with a complex, multifaceted game with backstabbing, deception, and strategy, all culminating in a race to see which side could decode the truth first. But all of that only really happened after all of the major narrative threads that have been sprinkled in throughout the hundreds of chapters finally all started connecting together. The majority of the time, Golden Kamuy is a bit of a fun, stupid story that relies on its silly cast of characters, trying to find their next monster of the week so that they can get a little bit closer to the gold, while showering you with cultural knowledge about the Ainu people. These parts for me were sometimes not my favorite, but if you really grow to love these goofy cast of characters, Golden Kamuy will always be a fun time. And as a more recently finished manga, I'm kinda surprised more people don't talk about it regularly. So check it out. Meet Onizuka, a 22-year-old recent college grad who's an ex-biker gang member, a black belt in karate, and the #1 soon-to-be predator. So as a recent college grad, he's doing what we all gotta do. Sending out an application, rejected. Another application, rejected. Interview, rejected. It didn't matter what he tried, it was just rejection on rejection on rejection. And my brother, I feel you on that. So starting from scratch, he first has to think about what exactly he likes, and maybe this can help him. Okay. Time to be a teacher it is. And he wants to be the greatest high school teacher in the world. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, this manga is stupid. I'm convinced everyone in this story goes home and religiously huffs paint fumes for 8 hours, and that's the only logical explanation for what happens at times. Like, this entire class wants to commit war crimes on every teacher who steps in the door. They genuinely want these teachers to suffer as if Satan himself was doing the torture. This manga is filled with schizophrenic behavior. These students bring a katana to school so they can kill the principal. There's this perverted teacher. Here's another one. Or there's this dude who's a full-on stalker and eventually kidnaps a coworker. And the biggest weirdo of them all is this fucker. I hate him. I hate him with everything in my being, and oh my god, he does not shut the hell up. You kind of just have to get accustomed to random shit happening in Great Teacher Onizuka. Like, yes, do these students nearly get trafficked? Was it a little bit uncomfortable? Yeah. Does Onizuka get tricked into spending all of the students' forest camp trip money on a fake students' girls bar? Absolutely. And I'm not even going to describe how he gets himself out of this mess because it's that impractical, you just gotta experience it yourself. And at this point, I can't help but scratch my head, roll my eyes a little bit, and chuckle at the foolishness that goes on. But for all of the nonsensical bullshit in this manga, this dude Onizuka is one of the realest dudes of all time. Out of nowhere, he'll drop a line like, "You can't spend all of your time bitching and moaning about the past because you cheat yourself out of the present."
Get this man a raise! He's preaching!
I love that message. Who gives a damn about the past? Why are we always worrying about the future? If you live in the here and now and give life the attentive, conscious effort it deserves, everything will work out. Because it has to. This manga is hit or miss. It's a bit cliche and some of the characters are parodies of attributes to the extreme. But in this world that has dumb gags, really weird and peculiar situations, there's still this stupid idiot that will say the most profound shit ever. If you've ever had someone older than you that you've looked up to, there will be countless moments sitting in the middle of this idiot sandwich that'll make you stare at the ceiling and think, what am I gonna do with my life? That's a hard-ass question. And in between him beating up predators and being a predator himself, Onizuka will make me think about the most heartfelt questions that only I, myself, and me can answer. That's kind of special. That's my takeaway from Great Teacher Onizuka. And you can't forget, it's just fucking funny. Like, why does this happen? He goes to his student's house because she's having problems at home with her parents. So his solution is to take out a sledgehammer and break the walls down. It doesn't make any sense. The manga Kiichi can be divided into maybe 3 separate acts, and naturally you would think that the best way to sell this manga is to start off by going over the beginning portion of the story so you can get a surface level of what it's about. But I'm actually going to skip over that first act entirely. It's something that happened in short 10 or so chapters, and I truly think you should just give it a shot to experience it yourself. Now, this manga follows the early life story of this boy, Kiichi. He goes on to become a key figure for change, challenging the existing societal status quo. And honestly, how the hell do you even get to that point following a young boy of just 3 years old? Shaped by immense trauma and a lack of formal education, Kiichi developed a unique worldview, deeply rooted in his innate sense of justice. His experiences of homelessness, wandering like a nomad, and living in isolation within the depths of a forest shaped his distinct personality. He's individualistic, righteous, and headstrong, unwavering in his beliefs about right and wrong. Now, this kind of person inevitably clashes with the rules of society. So what's he supposed to do? How can he adapt to a society whose rules he rejects? Well, from maybe my or your perspective, we don't really have to do anything about it. We can all live in blissful ignorance, ignoring the blatant murders, systemic corruption, corporate greed at the expense of workers, and abuse of power by those in authority. It's nice and easy to live life not fighting back against these issues, at least in like a major direct confrontational way. But that doesn't sit well with Kiichi, especially when exploitations are happening right in front of his eyes. So faced with the agonizing reality of societal life, Kiichi says, fuck that. I'm gonna make my own rules. Rules that allow those who feel oppressed by society to find some solace. Following the journey of Kiichi is a rewarding one. You follow this odd little 3-year-old boy become a raw icon of strength and integrity as he stands against the world's injustices and ultimately becomes an unforgettable character. I honestly had no idea the direction the story was headed when I was first reading, but I was just captivated in following the unique journey that Kiichi's life brought me on. If you give this story an honest shot through 15 chapters, I would be more than surprised if you were disappointed. All 5 of these manga were honestly a treat to read. I know some are more talked about than others, but none reached the pinnacles of popularity for online YouTube sphere manga recommendations. At least in my opinion, so I wanted to shed some more light. Anyways, if you enjoyed or want to give me a recommendation directly that I will read, consider joining my Patreon or just subscribe for more content. Thanks for your attention.